Hello, this is wmpyr. This is a response video to a YouTube video titled Why I Don't Like Bruce Lee, and it was made by Izzo Tactical Combat Martial Arts. Yeah, very controversial title, and at first I didn't want to click on it, but after I watched the video I saw that it was actually well thought out. His arguments were very well thought out, so I thought it'd be cool to do a response video. Now, one thing that I want to get out of the way real quick, because I don't feel that it's necessarily very integral to his argument, is he does say something that like this. He says, this is all Yip Man's fault. And I failed to see the connection to Yip Man as far as his point of view, his argument. I failed to see that. I really don't know if Yip Man was a lazy teacher. I don't know if he was hooked on opium. But even if he was those things, I don't think it matters to his argument. I really kind of feel like Yip Man has nothing to do with this. So just wanted to get that out of the way. But anyway, one of the main problems that this guy was talking about with Bruce Lee was that he said that Bruce Lee was not qualified to be teaching Wing Chun, or he said that Wing Chun was misrepresented by Bruce Lee here in the United States, but because Bruce Lee was so charismatic, his words became gospel, and now everyone has a very limited or incorrect idea of Wing Chun because of Bruce Lee. And that's why this guy doesn't like Bruce Lee. As far as Bruce Lee being charismatic and, this awesome athlete and stuff, he agrees with all that. But he says that he basically feels that Wing Chun is being misrepresented today, and it's all because of Bruce Lee. Because the guy was just simply, his level of training in Wing Chun, he feels is very, very questionable, and he didn't have the qualifications, but he came to the U.S. and he knew this rare art at the time, and because he's so charismatic that everyone took his word as gospel, and Bruce Lee said some things about Wing Chun that now stick to this day. All right. So as far as like Bruce Lee not being qualified with Wing Chun, I just want to say that Danny Inosanto said that basically said something like, Bruce Lee may not have had the qualifications in many martial arts styles. However, the guy's understanding of martial arts was really, really awesome. That he had a very high level and a wealth of knowledge of martial arts. And Chuck Norris said something like that too. That he was talking to Bruce Lee, all the way to like 2 o'clock in the morning and stuff like that. They could just go on forever. So something like that. Okay, so I personally give the benefit of the doubt that Bruce Lee had a wealth of knowledge, and his understanding of martial arts was very, very good. Why is this important? Because let me give you guys an example of, like, let's say a Tai Chi guy. I train with a Tai Chi guy, and so I have a little bit of Tai Chi training, but I'm not going to put Tai Chi as, like I'm not qualified to teach it or anything. I've dabbled in it a little bit, all right? That doesn't mean anything. The guy that I trained with is, let's say he was super, super into Tai Chi, so he's awesome at Tai Chi. His push hands just wipe the floor with me. He's all into Tai Chi. He feels like it's the best style in the world. And so he enters a amateur MMA bout. Okay, so he enters that and gets royally whooped. Royally whooped. And he's like, what happened? I'm awesome at Tai Chi. Why did I get my ass kicked here? And in that case, then I feel like what little I know of Tai Chi, I feel like my ability to apply Tai Chi, okay, for a realistic situation is at a higher level than him. In other words, my understanding of Tai Chi is at a much higher level than this guy who has higher Tai Chi skill than me, more Tai Chi knowledge than me, but I feel that my understanding of how to use Tai Chi is higher than his. So could we say that about Bruce Lee? Maybe he didn't know every single Wing Chun form all the way from A all the way to Z, but his understanding of combat, because that's what it is. And this guy even says in his video that fighting is different for everybody, because fighting can be so many different things. It could be self-defense, it could be a one-on-one fight, it could be multiple attackers, weapons. What is fighting? It could be so many different things, And combat basically is a dynamic and chaotic. What is Wing Chun? Wing Chun is just one style of martial arts, which is a huge, it falls into the category of martial arts, to try to understand combat. It's just one method, one way of thinking to help you understand combat, all right? And so I can also understand that he was saying that Wing Chun is not limited to just close range combat. Wing Chun is not no high kicks. Wing Chun is not those things. Wing Chun is trying to understand combat, so Wing Chun keeps going. It keeps getting deeper and deeper, and eventually it starts to, blend with the individual, where forget style. Maybe at first you're started off in Wing Chun and you learn Wing Chun, and what style are you training in? Wing Chun. But then comes a point where what style have you been training in? And it should be, I'm training in Izo Wing Chun, where it's your style. You know what I mean? Not that you created a new style. It's just that now it's become you so much that it's pretty different from when you walk into a classroom and then the way they teach it and stuff like that. Now it's quite different because it's so catered to you now. It's so part of you. And so anyway, because of that, it's not the style that's important. It's the combat. How deep you go into it, how you make it your own, how you make it part of you, that's important. So in that sense, I think Bruce Lee was a master at that, and he talked about that. He talked about forget the style, don't let the style limit you. It's all about the individual. So even if Bruce Lee had this much knowledge of Wing Chun, in my opinion, he expanded it and then made it a part of himself. And he did that with a bunch of other martial arts styles that he studied. So his Wing Chun, got blended in with other stuff, and it became part of him. Does that mean that his Wing Chun is at a low level? People will judge you all the time. Maybe, like I said, he doesn't know all the forms. Maybe he never got to the butterfly swords. I don't know. But what little he knew, I feel that he took that to a very high level. All right, that he could compete with anyone with any of the high-level Wing Chun guys. Also like another perspective that I could give you guys is like, for example, if I train in BJJ and I focus on, let's say, the half guard, and that's all I do, and then I go back to BJJ training, and they look at me and they go like, okay, your mount sucks, your rear mount sucks, your side sucks, all these suck, but your half guard is at a high level, all right? And my half guard may be able to compete with some higher ranking guys, okay? But the other areas, no, okay? So at that point, maybe I don't have a full picture, but in that one area, I'm going to be really, really good. Does that mean that I'm worthless in BJJ? And I guess that's opinion, all right? That's opinion, but I'd like to leave it at that. I don't feel that that's worthless, okay? All right, so the other thing that I want to focus on and talk about here is, okay, so this guy feels like Wing Chun was misrepresented by Bruce Lee. I understand that. I understand that because maybe for me, my amount of Wing Chun is very little. My amount of karate is actually more than Wing Chun, and karate was one of the styles that Bruce Lee almost kind of like picked on, all right? And I kind of feel like Bruce Lee did that because his level of understanding of karate was low, okay? And I'm kind of saying the same thing that this person is saying about Wing Chun. And I do feel that karate has been very misrepresented by Bruce Lee. It's written in his works, in some of his books and stuff. It says that in karate they punch like this, and they do stuff like this, and therefore this is outdated and this is terrible and blah 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 blah, and it's not as efficient as punching this way, or he talks about that. He actually shows that the reach is not good and it doesn't make any sense, and okay, he talks about that kind of stuff. I feel also that it's misrepresented. Okay, uh, now in defense of Bruce Lee, okay, Bruce Lee is a human being that also changed over the course of time. So his beginning works and his later works is not necessarily the same. Okay, in the beginning, maybe he criticized the technique and he was saying like, you know, don't do this, don't do that. You know, it's not as good as throwing a punch just like that. You know, and following the shortest distance. And okay, we all know that stuff. All right, so he talks about stuff like that in the beginning. Later on, you know, he talks about more, he focuses more on the philosophy that, you know, in Way of the Dragon, he says something like, it doesn't matter what style, you should embrace it and you should work hard at it, and the style doesn't matter. You know, he says something like that because one of the guys says, I like Chinese boxing. You know, that's the best style for me. I don't want to do foreign styles. I don't want to do karate. That's foreign, because this was a Chinese guy. And then Bruce Lee's like, it doesn't matter the style. You should embrace it and you should, you know, dedicate yourself to it and become good at it. You know, he says that. And he talks about, he was against when a style limits you. You know, when people become like, okay, this is the way it has to be, then he's against that. You know, so it wasn't against karate or it wasn't against Wing Chun or anything like that. You know, he's against the style becoming more important than the human being, than the individual. How could you be against that? I have to agree with that. But in the beginning, where he's slandering karate, I disagree with him. But you see, his message evolved and it changed. You know, so that's what's something that I think maybe was misinterpreted by this guy, or maybe left out in that case. Now, as far as the other problem being that now Wing Chun has a stereotype where they don't have high kicks, where it's not, you know, it's all about close range fighting and stuff like that. All right, Wing Chun can be expressed very differently according to, you know, the practitioner. There might be a person with very, very long range, you know, and that person is going to use Wing Chun in a long range, actually. There might be someone who really likes the grappling part. He really likes to grapple, but he really likes Wing Chun. So the kind of grappling that he does is more Wing Chun trapping style, and that's what he's going to focus on. So every individual, and even one person, can change. In the beginning, they like to do hard punches and stuff, and then later on, like this guy was saying, that he maybe wants to do more of the energy, the sensitivity type training with Wing Chun as he gets older and stuff like that. You know, because Wing Chun does offer so many different ways, and then you could keep going with it. Okay. So the problem here is the people who took Bruce Lee's certain words and then just made that into gospel. All right. Yes, there's a problem with anybody that does that. Anyone that, so his video to me shouldn't be titled "Why I Don't Like Bruce Lee." It should be titled "Why I Don't Like the Mindless Bruce Lee Followers." That is a much better a quote, I think, you know, or better title in that sense. There's always going to be people like that. Bruce Lee, I'm sure, tried to avoid that as much as possible in his writings, but there's always going to be people misrepresenting him, misquoting him. So this guy's solution was basically, don't quote other people, just speak yourself. Don't say Bruce Lee said this, Daniel Santos said this. Just say I'm saying this, you know. And in some ways, I totally agree. In fact, did I make a video like that? I think I made a video like that where I said I'm going to stop quoting. And in this video, yes, I realized I have quoted several people. They're not my words. And you know, my realization now is that quotes is just like anything. They can be used negatively and they can be used positively. Using a quote negatively is parroting it, just repeating it without really understanding what it means. All right, and just you know saying stuff like I hear so many people say, you know, a weapon is an extension of your body. I bet most people don't know what the hell they're talking about, you know, but they just say it because it sounds cool. All right, I find that quite irritating, you know, and then you know there are people that use quotes to motivate you. to take you in a positive direction, in a positive and productive direction. In that case, I say quote all day long. There's nothing wrong with quotes. Use quotes then. So I don't feel like you should necessarily shy away from quotes. If you are using quotes to, like, say, basically have your own way, have your way at an argument and say, well, Bruce Lee said this, therefore I'm right, ha, then that's very piss poor. That's a very piss poor attitude. That's like hiding behind Bruce Lee, and that's not cool. That's not right at all. So, just keep in mind that quotes can be used positively and negatively, and try to use it in a positive manner. That's what I will try to do myself. And so anyway, I know this video got really, really long, and okay, last thing from his video, it may sound like this video just goes against his video, and that's not the point of this video. I'm not here to battle this guy or argue with this guy. I don't care about any of that. If he wants to argue, well, you won, dude, you won, or that's fine, So I'm not that kind of person. However, the one thing that I want to say about his video is the best thing to take out from his video, in my opinion, is that when he says Wing Chun is not this way, where people, like I said, feel like Wing Chun is only for close range. Wing Chun doesn't have any high kicks. Wing Chun is this, Wing Chun is that. This kind of stereotype that we have today of Wing Chun, and he says that's not true. Wing Chun can be expressed and used in so many different ways. And I completely agree with him, and I think that is the best part of his video. In fact, he should just remove the part where he says, I don't, why I don't like Bruce Lee, but then again, maybe that's what's causing people to, watch his video, but I'd rather he get the attention in a different manner. So forget that title, but just think, about what he's saying, all right? So when people tell me, like, karate is all about this, all about that, and it's like, dude, you don't get it, So it can be so much deeper.